The moment I found out about Morgan's affair, it was as if the ground beneath me crumbled. One second I was sipping coffee at the kitchen table, scrolling through emails before heading to work, and the next, my entire marriage, my entire life, was ripped apart in a handful of text messages that weren't even meant for me. I didn't stumble across them by accident. Deep down, I already knew something was wrong. Morgan had been pulling away for months. She started working late more often. Her phone was never out of reach. And even when she sat next to me on the couch, she wasn't really there. I told myself it was stress, or maybe just the natural ebb and flow of a marriage that had lasted over a decade. But in my gut, I felt the distance widening, and I was too afraid to face what it meant. That morning, though, I couldn't ignore it any longer. She left her laptop open on the counter while she showered, and I saw a notification pop up in the corner of the screen. It was his name. I didn't know it yet, but I would come to hate it. At first, I told myself I wouldn't look. I wasn't that kind of man, the jealous snoop, the paranoid husband. But then another message appeared, and the preview alone was enough to freeze me in place. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. My hands were shaking as I clicked it open. Dozens of messages, each one more intimate than the last. Jokes, plans, confessions of love. It wasn't just a fling, it was a relationship. A second life she had been building behind my back. In that moment, something inside me broke. When Morgan came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, she froze the instant she saw me standing there with her laptop. The look on her face said everything. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try to. She just whispered, "Brandon, I'm so sorry." As though those words could stitch together the gaping wound she'd torn open. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room, smash every dish in the kitchen, tear down every picture of us smiling on vacations and anniversaries. Instead, I sat down. My whole body felt heavy, like I was being pressed into the chair by a weight I couldn't see. My voice cracked when I finally spoke. "How long?" "6 months," she admitted, eyes cast to the floor. It just happened." "6 months isn't something that just happens," I shot back. My heart was pounding, my palms damp with sweat. I could hear my own breath rasping in my chest. She tried to explain something about loneliness, about feeling like I wasn't present, about how she hadn't planned for it, but fell into it. Every word felt like another knife. I had given this woman everything, my loyalty, my trust, my love, and she had given it to someone else. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked through the house like a stranger, staring at the furniture we picked out together, the photos of us with forced smiles. I kept thinking about how many nights she had kissed me goodbye and gone off to him. How many lies had slipped off her tongue as naturally as breathing. By morning, I knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same. Divorce was already in my mind, though the word felt like poison on my lips. But part of me clung to the idea that maybe, somehow, we could rebuild. It was the father in me, the part that didn't want to see our daughter, Emma, caught in the crossfire of broken vows. I called my brother that day, told him everything. He listened quietly and then said, "Brandon, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Once trust is gone, it's gone." His words echoed in my head long after I hung up. But still, I hesitated. I remembered our wedding day, the way Morgan looked in her dress, the way we danced like no one was watching. I thought about the nights we stayed up dreaming about the future, the house we would buy, the vacations we would take, the family we would build. Was all of that really gone? Could it all be erased by 6 months of betrayal? The doubt ate at me, even as anger burned hotter than I thought possible. One moment I wanted to pack her bags and toss them on the lawn. The next, I wanted to beg her to explain how we got here, to promise me it would never happen again. The worst part was realizing that my life wasn't just split in two anymore. It was in pieces, scattered across the floor, and I didn't even know where to begin picking them up. The morning after discovering the affair, I felt like I was living inside someone else's skin. The air was heavy, every sound amplified, the drip of the faucet, the creak of the floorboards, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Morgan stayed in the guest room that night, though neither of us slept much. I could hear her pacing, could feel the silence pressing against the walls. When the sun finally rose, I decided I couldn't live in half-truths. I needed the whole story, every ugly detail, no matter how much it hurt. Over breakfast that I barely touched, I asked her straight out, "Who is he?" Her eyes flickered, and she wrapped her hands around a coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping her steady. "His name's Ryan," she whispered. "He works in marketing. We met at a conference last year." The words landed like blows. Ryan, a name I would never forget. A man who had been laughing with my wife, holding her, touching her while I thought she was working late. "Where do you see him?" I pressed, my voice harsher than I intended. She swallowed, her gaze fixed on the table. Mostly at his apartment, sometimes hotels when it felt safer. Hotels, the same places where Morgan and I had celebrated anniversaries, where we had once stolen away for romantic weekends. Now those images were poisoned. "And you told me you were at book club," I said, my throat tightening. "Or working late. You lied to my face every time." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I know. I hate myself for it. I never wanted to hurt you." I slammed my fist against the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen. "You didn't just hurt me, Morgan. You destroyed us. You destroyed our marriage. 6 months, half a year of lies." Our daughter Emma padded into the kitchen just then, rubbing her eyes, her hair tangled from sleep. She was only 8. She looked at both of us and asked, "Why are you yelling?" My anger dissolved into shame. I crouched down, kissed her forehead, and said softly, "Mommy and Daddy are just talking, sweetheart. Go get ready for school." She nodded and shuffled away, unaware of how her world was shifting beneath her feet. When the door closed behind her, I turned back to Morgan. She was sobbing into her hands. I wanted to stop Brandon. I swear I did. But every time I tried, Don't, I cut her off. "Don't feed me excuses. You had a choice every single day. You chose him, you chose lies, and you chose to risk our family." I left the house after that, slamming the door behind me. I couldn't breathe in there anymore. Surrounded by the smell of her perfume, the sight of the laptop that had betrayed me. I drove without direction, ending up in the parking lot of a diner I used to visit in college. I sat in the car for nearly an hour, staring at the cracked asphalt, my mind replaying everything like a cruel slideshow. How many times had she kissed me with a taste of him still on her lips? How many times had she looked into my eyes and told me she loved me, knowing it was a lie? The humiliation burned hotter than the anger. It wasn't just betrayal. It was degradation, a stain I couldn't wash off. By midday, I called her. My voice was flat, drained of fury. "I need to know if it's over," I said. "Are you still seeing him?" There was a pause, then I told him it was finished. "Yesterday, after you found out." I let out a bitter laugh. "So the only reason you ended it is because you got caught." She didn't deny it. That night, we sat down after Emma went to bed. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Morgan tried to explain how she felt invisible, how I was always buried in work, how she thought I had stopped caring. I listened, but her words fell flat. There are 1,000 ways to reach out when you're hurting. An affair is not one of them. At one point, she reached across the table, her fingers trembling as they hovered over mine. "I want to fix this, Brandon. I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes." I pulled my hand back. "You can't fix something you burned to the ground." Her face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not just fear of losing me, but fear of losing the life we'd built. The house, the routines, the little family that made us more than just two people. I went to bed that night with my mind torn in two. Part of me wanted to file for divorce immediately, to cut the cord and never look back. Another part clung to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there was something left to salvage. As I lay staring at the ceiling, I realized the cruelest part of betrayal isn't the act itself. It's the uncertainty it plants in your heart. You stop trusting your partner, and then you stop trusting yourself, your judgment, your instincts, even your own memories. Everything becomes a question mark. Sleep never came. By dawn, I knew this was only the beginning of a long, excruciating war. Between anger and hope, between pride and fear, between the past and the possibility of a future I wasn't sure I even wanted anymore. The morning after our confrontation, I found myself staring at the mirror, barely recognizing the man looking back. My eyes were ringed with shadows, my jaw clenched so tightly it ached. I had aged 10 years in 2 days. I needed clarity. I needed someone who could tell me what my options were if I decided to end this marriage. That's how I found myself sitting in the office of a divorce attorney the very next afternoon. The lawyer was calm, professional, almost mechanical as he explained how assets would be divided, how custody might work, what alimony could look like. His voice was steady, but the words landed like hammer blows. "You've been married over a decade. With a child involved, this won't be quick or easy." I nodded, though my stomach twisted. All I could think about was Emma, how this would tear her world apart. But another part of me, the wounded, furious part, kept saying, "She's already torn it apart. You're just the one who has to face the rubble." When I walked out of that office, divorce felt both inevitable and unbearable. That night, I confided in my friend Marcus, a guy I'd known since high school. We sat in his garage, beers in hand, the smell of motor oil clinging to the air. I told him everything, the texts, the confession, the lawyer. He listened, then shook his head. "Brandon, I've seen this before. My cousin went through it. His wife swore she wanted to fix things, but within 6 months she was back with the other guy. Some people don't change. You'll torture yourself trying to make it work." His bluntness cut deep, but it was what I needed to hear. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about Emma. Would she hate me if I walked away? Would she think I gave up too easily? The next day, my mother called. She must have sensed something in my voice earlier, because she asked directly, "Brandon, what's wrong?" I told her. Not all the details, but enough. There was a pause on the line, then her voice cracked. "Oh, honey, I always thought Morgan adored you. I can't believe this." Neither could I. "Listen to me," my mom continued, her tone firm. "You deserve to be loved fully. If she couldn't see that, then she's the one who's blind. Don't stay because you're afraid for Emma. Children are stronger than we think. What hurts them more is watching their parents live in misery. Her words lingered long after the call ended. That evening, Morgan suggested we try counseling. "We owe it to Emma," she said, her eyes red-rimmed, her voice desperate. I stared at her, torn between rage and exhaustion. "You had 6 months to think about what you owed this family. You chose him every time." "But I'm here now," she pleaded. "I want to make it right." I couldn't answer. I just walked out the door, needing air. I ended up driving to the park where Emma liked to play. I sat on a bench, watching other parents push their kids on swings, hearing laughter fill the air. It felt like another world, one I no longer belonged to. I remembered Emma's smile when she rode her bike for the first time, how Morgan and I had cheered together. Back then, we were a team. Now I couldn't even look at Morgan without seeing betrayal. The war inside me grew louder. On one side was pride, the part of me that screamed, "Don't be a fool. She betrayed you. End it." On the other side was fear. The fear of tearing Emma's life apart, of being alone, of starting over at 35 with nothing but scars. Sleep became impossible. Nights were spent pacing the living room, staring at the glow of the streetlights outside. Sometimes I caught myself reaching for my phone, almost calling Morgan just to hear her voice, before I remembered whose voice it really was. The voice of a liar. Still, the thought of finality scared me. Divorce papers weren't just ink on paper. They were a death certificate for the life I thought I had. By the end of the week, I was caught in a loop. See a lawyer, talk to friends, rage at Morgan, cry for Emma, and then start all over again. Every path forward felt like walking through fire. But even in the haze of confusion, one thing was becoming clear. I couldn't go back to how things were. Too much had been said. Too much had been broken. The only question left was whether I had the strength to walk away for good, or the weakness to let her pull me back into the same cycle. The turning point came on a Tuesday afternoon, though at first it didn't feel like anything important. I was sorting through the usual pile of envelopes, bills, advertisements, another statement from the bank, when I found one marked with the name of the insurance company I'd been battling for months. I opened it half-heartedly, expecting yet another denial, another form to fill out. Instead, I froze. Settlement amount, $20,000. To be distributed within 30 days. I read the line 3 times, convinced my exhausted mind was tricking me. But it was real. After nearly a year of disputes over a workplace injury claim, they were finally paying out. And not just a token amount, but $20,000. I sank into the couch, letter in hand, my heart pounding. For the first time since Morgan's betrayal, I felt something other than anger or despair. I felt possibility, because suddenly, I wasn't trapped anymore. Up until that moment, the thought of divorce had felt like standing on the edge of a cliff with nothing but a void beneath me. I pictured losing the house, being buried under debt, starting over with empty pockets. It was part of what kept me hesitating, what made me wonder if trying to reconcile would be safer, easier. But $20,000, that was different. It wasn't enough to rebuild a whole life, but it was enough to land on my feet, enough to rent an apartment, furnish it modestly, cover the legal costs of divorce, maybe even take Emma on a small trip to remind her that joy still existed. For the first time, I saw a path forward. That evening, I told Marcus about the settlement. He let out a low whistle. Man, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. You've been handed your way out. Don't waste it. His words echoed in my head the rest of the night. a way out. Of course, Morgan found out too. She saw the letter lying on the counter and immediately grew tense. "What's this?" she asked, holding it up. I hesitated, then said simply, "It's a settlement. 20,000. Her eyes widened, then darted back to me. That's great news for us. We can use it to catch up on bills, maybe fix the car." "No," I interrupted. "Not for us. For me." The silence between us was sharp. Like a blade, she stared at me, her mouth slightly open. "Brandon, you can't mean..." I cut her off again. Don't pretend we're a team anymore. That money is my chance to walk away, Morgan. My chance to start over without you." Her face crumpled, and she stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Please, don't do this. I've been begging for counseling, for a second chance. We can still fix this." I shook my head. "You only want to fix it because you're afraid of losing everything. You weren't afraid when you were with him. You weren't afraid when you were lying to my face. You weren't afraid when you chose him over me for half a year." She reached out, but I pulled back. I couldn't bear her touch anymore. That night, lying awake again, I realized how much had shifted. Before, I felt powerless, like a man chained to a burning house. But now, with that settlement letter folded neatly in my nightstand, I had keys to the lock. I pictured myself moving into a small apartment, decorating it however I wanted, cooking simple meals with Emma when she visited. I pictured peace. Not happiness yet. Maybe not for a long time, but peace. A life where I didn't have to wonder whose arms Morgan had been in, or what lies she'd tell me next. The more I thought about it, the more determined I became. This wasn't just about money. It was about dignity, about reclaiming control, about showing Emma that when someone disrespects you, you don't just swallow it and smile. You stand up and walk away. Still, fear gnawed at me. Could I really do it? Could I really dismantle a life built over a decade? The house, the routines, the shared memories, they all loomed large. And then there was Emma. The thought of her packing a bag every weekend, shuttling between two homes, broke my heart. But then I reminded myself, the marriage Emma had been living in wasn't whole anymore. The cracks were everywhere, sharp enough to cut her too if I stayed. By the end of the week, I caught myself holding the settlement letter like a talisman. Whenever doubt crept in, I unfolded it, traced the numbers with my eyes, and felt a strange kind of courage rising in me. $20,000 wasn't just money. It was freedom dressed in ink and paper. And for the first time since Morgan's betrayal, I believed I might actually take it. The days after the settlement news felt strangely different. For the first time in months, I wasn't drowning, I was treading water. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but I could breathe. And with that breath came the need to understand. At night, when the house was quiet and Morgan was asleep in the guest room, I sat at the kitchen table scrolling through forums. I typed the same questions over and over. Can you ever trust a cheater again? Is reconciliation worth it? Do kids suffer more from divorce or a toxic marriage? The answers flooded in, written by strangers, but they might as well have been voices from the future. One man wrote, "I stayed. 5 years later, she cheated again. Biggest regret of my life." Another said, "Leaving was the hardest thing I ever did, but I never once wished I had stayed." A woman wrote, "Kids know. They feel it. Don't kid yourself. Staying together for them while living in misery is worse than separating." I read hundreds of stories, different names, different faces, but the same thread ran through them all. Regret for staying, relief for leaving. It was like staring at a map where every road led away from Morgan. The weight of their words settled heavy on my chest. Maybe I had been clinging to a fantasy. Maybe reconciliation was just a polite word for denial. I thought of Emma. She was the only reason I hadn't already packed my bags. But when I looked at her these days, I saw more than just my daughter. I saw my responsibility to show her what respect and self-worth look like. What would I be teaching her if I stayed with someone who had betrayed me? That love means tolerating lies? That a marriage can survive without honesty? That wasn't the lesson I wanted her to carry into her own life someday. One evening, I printed out the settlement letter and placed it on the table between Morgan and me. She looked at it nervously, and then at me. "You're really going to use that to leave?" she asked, her voice small. "I don't know if I'm using it to leave," I replied slowly. "But I'm not going to use it to stay." Her eyes welled up. "Brandon, please, I know I ruined everything. But I'm begging you, don't throw us away." I leaned forward, the frustration spilling out of me. "Don't you get it? You threw us away the moment you let him touch you. The moment you texted him while I sat next to you on the couch. The moment you looked our daughter in the eye and lied about where you were going. You ended us, Morgan. I'm just the one cleaning up the mess." She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then the words from those late-night forums echoed again. Regret for staying, relief for leaving. That night, I wrote in a notebook, something I hadn't done in years. I listed 2 columns, stay and leave. Under stay, I wrote, Emma has both parents, maybe counseling works, maybe Morgan changes. Under leave, I wrote, freedom, self-respect, no more lies, chance at peace. The leave column filled faster than I expected. I stared at the paper until my vision blurred. That's when I knew. The scales had already tipped. A few days later, Marcus came by. We sat on the porch, sipping coffee, watching the neighborhood kids ride bikes. He glanced at me and said, "So, what's it going to be?" I didn't answer right away. But then I pulled the folded settlement letter from my pocket and handed it to him. "This," I said. "This is my ticket out." He nodded. No smile, just a quiet understanding. "Then don't waste it. You'll hate yourself if you stay." That evening, I told Morgan we needed to talk. She sat across from me, eyes rimmed with red, tissues scattered around her. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice steady for the first time since everything began. I tried to see a way back, but there isn't one. I'm filing for divorce. Her face crumpled and she whispered, "Don't do this. Please. For Emma." "For Emma," I repeated, my chest tight. "That's exactly why I have to. I won't let her grow up thinking this is what love looks like." For the first time, the conversation didn't end with shouting or tears on my part. I stood up, walked to the door, and left her sitting at the table. The night air felt cold against my face, but inside, I felt lighter. The voices of strangers, the letter in my pocket, the weight of truth, they had all led me here. And now, there was no turning back. The day I walked into the courthouse to file for divorce, the sky was gray, heavy with rain. It felt fitting, like the world was mourning with me, even as I tried to summon the strength to move forward. The clerk handed me a stack of papers, thicker than I expected. Each page was a reminder that love, no matter how once bright, can be reduced to signatures and legal jargon. My hand shook as I signed my name, not because I doubted the choice, but because of the finality of it. Once the ink dried There was no undoing it. When I walked out, the drizzle had turned into steady rain. I stood under the courthouse awning, staring at the traffic rolling by, feeling the weight of 10 years of marriage slide off me and crash into the pavement. That evening, I told Morgan. She sat on the couch, clutching a pillow like a lifeline. "It's done," I said simply. "The papers are filed." Her lips trembled. "So that's it? After everything we've built? After Emma?" I sank into the chair across from her, exhausted but resolute. Emma is the only reason I didn't leave sooner. But staying would teach her the wrong lesson. I can't let her think betrayal is something you can sweep under the rug. Her tears spilled freely. "I know I ruined us, but can't you see I'm trying? I ended it with him. I begged you for counseling. Don't I deserve one more chance?" The anger flared again, though softer now, dulled by weariness. "You had chance after chance every single day for 6 months. You chose him. You lied to me. You risked everything. One more chance doesn't erase that." She looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the man who once would have done anything for her no longer existed. Later that night, I tucked Emma into bed. She looked up at me with those wide, innocent eyes and asked, "Daddy, are you and Mommy mad at each other?" The lump in my throat nearly choked me. "We're not mad at you, sweetheart," I whispered, brushing her hair back. "We both love you very much. That will never change." She frowned. "But why are you sad all the time?" I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and it changes things. But I promise, everything will be okay. When she drifted off to sleep, I sat beside her for a long time, listening to her steady breathing, wondering how I would protect that innocence from the storm to come. In the days that followed, Morgan tried everything. She left notes on the counter, texts that said, "I love you," offers to cook my favorite meals. She was grasping at straws, trying to rewind a clock that had already run out. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face. "Brandon, please, don't do this. I'll never forgive myself if you walk away. I'll be better, I swear. Just don't leave me." Her desperation was painful to watch, but I couldn't let it sway me. "You should have thought about that before," I said quietly. "Before him. Before the lies. I can't live my life wondering when the next betrayal will come." She sobbed into her hands, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity. The following week, I met with the lawyer again to finalize the custody arrangements. Every detail was dissected: weekends, holidays, school schedules. Each word carved another line between what was once a family and what would now be 2 separate households. When it was over, I sat in the lawyer's office staring at the signed documents. There was no going back now. I drove home with the windows down, letting the wind sting my face. For the first time in months, I didn't feel suffocated. The pain was still there, deep and raw, but beneath it was something new: relief. That night, as I packed a small bag to spend my first weekend away from the house, Emma walked in. "Where are you going, Daddy?" she asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit. I knelt down, my heart breaking. "I'm going to stay somewhere else for a little while, but you'll see me all the time. I promise." Her eyes searched mine. "Will you still read me bedtime stories?" I smiled through the ache. "Always." When she hugged me, I held her tight, longer than usual, memorizing the feel of her tiny arms around my neck. As I closed the door behind me later that night, suitcase in hand, I felt the weight of finality settle on my shoulders. The marriage was over. The papers were filed. The path ahead was uncertain. But for the first time, it was my path. The first night in my new apartment was strange. The walls were bare, the furniture minimal. A bed, a table, a couple of chairs I'd bought secondhand. It didn't feel like home yet, but it felt like mine. For the first time in months, I didn't wake up to the weight of betrayal pressing against my chest. Instead, I woke up to silence. Empty, but clean. At first, the quiet was unsettling. No sound of Morgan moving around the kitchen, no Emma running through the hallway in the morning. But slowly that silence turned into something else. Peace. I started building new routines. Simple things, like cooking breakfast for Emma when she stayed over, teaching her how to scramble eggs, letting her decorate the apartment with her drawings. She taped a picture of the three of us on the fridge, me, her, and her rabbit. There was no Morgan in the drawing. Maybe that was her way of coping. Maybe it was her way of telling me she understood more than I gave her credit for. One weekend, we went to the park together. Emma laughed as she raced me to the swings, her hair flying in the wind. For the first time in a long while, I laughed too. Real laughter, not forced, not weighed down. Watching her smile reminded me that life wasn't over. It was just changing. I also began to take care of myself again. I signed up for the gym, something I hadn't done since my 20s. The first few weeks were brutal, but little by little, I felt my body strengthen. The more I pushed myself physically, the more I felt capable emotionally. Pain has a way of eating you alive if you let it sit still. Moving reminded me I wasn't broken beyond repair. Nights were still the hardest. Sometimes I'd lie awake, remembering the life Morgan and I once had, the vacations, the laughter, the way she used to fall asleep on my shoulder. Those memories didn't vanish overnight, but instead of spiraling into anger, I let myself feel the loss, then gently set it aside. Healing wasn't about pretending it never happened. It was about learning to carry the scar without letting it define me. One evening, Marcus stopped by with a pizza and a couple of beers. We sat on the balcony, the city lights flickering in the distance. He raised his bottle and said, "To new beginnings." I clinked mine against his, smiling. To new beginnings. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was a life I could shape, a life that was honest. And that mattered more than anything. Morgan still called sometimes, mostly about Emma. Her voice always carried a trace of regret, but I kept the conversations short, polite. There was no hatred left in me, just distance. We had our history, but that chapter was closed. The settlement money that once felt like an escape fund became the seed of something bigger. I used part of it to fix up the apartment, part of it to take Emma on a small trip to the coast. Watching her chase seagulls across the sand, I realized that happiness wasn't gone. It was simply waiting in new places. Little by little, I began to believe again. Believe that I could still have love one day. Believe that Emma would grow up strong and resilient, knowing her father chose dignity over denial. Believe that life, even after betrayal, could still be beautiful. As I sit here now, months later, the pain has dulled. The scar is still there, but it no longer bleeds. I survived the fire, and on the other side, I found something worth holding on to. Myself. And maybe that's the lesson for anyone who's listening to this story. Whether you've been betrayed, broken, or left behind, life doesn't end in the ashes. Sometimes it begins there.